In the world of energy, the Holy Grail is a power source that's inexpensive and clean with no emissions. Many startups in Silicon Valley are working on it, and one of them is Bloom Energy. They want to put a little power plant in a box, literally in your backyard. For nearly a decade, the company had been unusually secretive about its Bloom box. But in February 2010, its inventor, K.R. Sridhar, invited me to take a look inside his much talked about but never before seen creation. What could this power?
This could power a U.S. home. Average United States
house?
Entire house, 24/7, 365.
Something that small?
The way we make it is in 2 blocks. This is a European home. The 2 put together is a U.S. home.
Because we use twice as much energy?
Yeah,
is that what
and this will power 4 Asian homes.
So 4 homes in India, your native country.
4 to 6 homes in our country.
It sounds awfully dazzling.
It is real. It works.
He says he knows it works because he originally invented a similar device for NASA. He really is a rocket scientist.
This invention working on Mars would have allowed the NASA administrator to pick up a phone and say, Mr. President, we know how to produce oxygen on Mars.
So this was going to produce oxygen so people could actually live on Mars?
Absolutely.
When NASA scrapped that Mars mission, K.R. had an idea. He reversed his Mars machine. So instead of making oxygen, he pumped oxygen in. He invented a new kind of fuel cell, which is like a very skinny battery that always runs. K.R. feeds oxygen to it on one side and fuel on the other. The two combine within the cell to create a chemical reaction that produces electricity. No need for burning or combustion. No need for power lines from an outside source. In October 2001, he managed to get a meeting with John Doerr from the big Silicon Valley venture capital firm Kleiner Perkins. How much do you think I need to come up with the next big thing?
Oh, that's my job, to find entrepreneurs who are going to change the world and then help them.
John Doerr has certainly changed our world. He's the one who discovered and funded Netscape, Amazon, and Google. When he listened to K.R., the idea seemed just as transformative. Efficient, inexpensive, clean energy out of a box. But Google, 25 million. Mm-hmm. This man said how much money?
At the time, he said over $100 million.
Didn't smoke start coming out of your ears? And no?
No.
That was okay?
That was okay.
So nothing he said scared you?
Oh, I wasn't at all sure it could be done.
But there was a selling point. Clean energy was an emerging market worth gazillions.
I like to say that the new energy technologies could be the largest economic opportunity of the 21st century.
Was this your very first
clean energy investment?
Yeah.
This was the very first.
Many followed, and the clean tech revolution in Silicon Valley was off and running, with startups that produce thin, flexible solar panels, harness wind with giant balloons, or develop new fuels from algae. But Bloom is among the most expensive. I heard actually so far, not just from Kleiner Perkins, but total $400 million.
You're in the ballpark.
In Silicon Valley, every time a company raises over $100 million and they haven't come out with a product yet, everybody starts getting the heebie-jeebies.
Michael Kanellis is the editor-in-chief of the website Green Tech Media. How has Bloom gotten to have such an enormously high profile of most of the companies out here? That's the one you hear about.
Yeah, you do, and it's a cool idea. You know, they want to almost make instant energy, but they're also kind of sprinkled with stardust. You know, Al Gore talks about them. You see the CEO palling around with Tom Friedman at Davos, so there's a certain whiff of celebrity.
You're very skeptical. I can see this, obviously.
I'm skeptical, I'm hopeful, but I'm skeptical because people have tried fuel cells for, since the 1830s.
Yeah.
They're great ideas, right? Just producing energy at an instant. But they're not easy. They're like the divas of industrial equipment. You have to put platinum inside there. You've got to put zirconium. The little plates inside have to work not just for an hour or a day, but they have to work for 30 years, nonstop. And then the box has to be cheap to make.
One thing stoking his skepticism, Bloom Energy's K.R. Sridhar has been hyper-secretive. No signs on his building, a cryptic website, and no public progress reports. Given the stealthiness, we were surprised when K.R. showed us for the very first time how he makes the secret sauce of his fuel cell on the cheap. Actually, I feel like I'm on a cooking show. You're Martha Stewart.
Absolutely. So let's take that cooking analogy.
Okay.
Start with the flour.
The flour.
Okay?
What is that?
That is beach sand.
It's beach sand?
Ocean beaches in multiple continents has this material in abundance.
He said he bakes the sand and cuts it into little squares. Okay, so this is beach sand turned magically into a ceramic.
Yeah, into a ceramic.
And then he coats it with green and black inks that he developed. Okay, is it a secret formula?
There is a secret formula.
Okay.
And you take that and you apply that, you paint that on either side of this white ceramic to get a green layer and a black layer.
And that's it?
That's it.
That's the secret.
So what I'm holding in my hand is a fuel cell.
This is the fuel cell? It's skinny, and this will generate power.
This will generate power.
One disc powers one light bulb. The taller the stack of discs, the more power it generates. In between each disc, there's a metal plate, but instead of platinum, KR uses a cheap metal alloy. The stacks are the heart of the Bloom box. Put 64 of them together, and you get something big enough to power, say, a Starbucks. So this is it? KR offered to give me a sneak peek inside the Bloom box.
Nobody has seen this before.
Are you going to let me look inside?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Why not?
This is...
So,
go ahead.
Here we go.
Okay. Oh.
All those modules that we saw go into this big box. Fuel goes in, air goes in, out comes electricity. 30,000 square foot office building
would have four
of these things.
I see.
And the electricity from all four will get combined and come out as a single outlet.
Wow. And if this were in my house, it would supply the energy for everything.
Yes.
Air conditioning, heat.
This would more than supply.
This is much larger.
Much larger than what you need.
In a
your unit,
single-family house.
A single-family house would be less than a quarter the size of this box, and it cannot just be in your garage. It can be outside next to your air conditioning unit.
Is the Bloom box intended to get rid of the grid?
The Bloom box is intended to replace the grid for its customers. It's cheaper than the grid. It's cleaner than the grid.
Now, won't the utility companies see this as a threat and try to crush Bloom?
No, I think the utility companies will see this as a solution. All they need to do is buy Bloom boxes, put them in the substation or the neighborhood, and sell that electricity. And
they'll buy these boxes?
They buy nuclear power plants. They buy gas turbines from General Electric.
To make power, you still need fuel. Many past fuel cells failed because they needed expensive pure hydrogen. Not this box.
Our system can use fossil fuels, like natural gas. Our system can use renewable fuels, like landfill gas, biogas.
Solar?
We can use solar.
You know, it's very difficult for us to come in here and make an evaluation. How are we supposed to know whether what you're saying is true?
Why didn't we talk to our first customers?
He already has customers. 20 large, well-known companies have quietly bought and are testing Bloom boxes in California. Like FedEx. We were at their hub in Oakland the day Bloom installed their boxes, each one costing $700,000 to $800,000. One reason the companies have signed up is that in California, 20% of the cost is subsidized by the state, and there's a 30% federal tax break because it's a green technology. In other words, the price is cut in half.
We have FedEx, we have Walmart.
Yeah, yes. Walmart?
Absolutely.
Staples?
Staples.
So who was the first?
Google was the very first
Google was the first.
Yes.
These 4 units have been powering a Google data center for 18 months. They use natural gas, but half as much as would be required for a traditional power plant. KR told us that 3 weeks in at Google, suddenly one of the boxes just stopped.
Your heart just drops.
Did you panic?
For a short while? Yes.
He fixed that, then there was another incident.
The air filters clog up and air is not coming into the system because the highway is kicking dirt. You just flip the system around and the problem is gone.
Another company that's bought and is testing the Bloom box so KR can work out the kinks is eBay. Its boxes are on the lawn in the middle of its campus in San Jose.
These things fuel almost 15% of the power on this campus.
John Donahoe, the CEO of eBay, says its 5 boxes were installed 9 months ago and have already saved the company more than $100,000 in electricity costs.
It's been very successful thus far. They've done what they said they would do.
eBay's boxes run on biogas made from landfill waste, so they're carbon neutral. Donahoe took us up to the roof to show off the company's more than 3,000 solar panels. But they generate a lot less electricity than the boxes on the lawn. So this on 5 buildings, acres and acres and acres.
Yes, the footprint for Bloom is much more efficient. When you average it over 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, the Bloom box puts out 5 times as much power that we can actually use.
But not everyone is convinced that even if the technology works, Bloom, that now makes 1 box a day, will ever be able to be as big as its backers say.
Going from a few to mass manufacturing is going to be tough. And then making them so people won't run away at the price tag. You know, it needs to be cheaper than solar, it needs to be cheaper than wind.
What if he can get the price way down? He claims he can.
And if he can, the problem is then GE and Siemens and other conglomerates probably can do the same thing. I mean, they have fuel cell patents. They have research teams that have looked at this.
What do you think the chances are that in 10 plus years, you and I will each have a Bloom box in our basements?
20%. But it's going to say GE.
Companies that you have bet on,
Yes.
they haven't all succeeded.
Right. I have some famous failures.
You have some very famous failures.
Yes.
This is perhaps the most famous one of all. Dorr is praying that Bloom is not the next Segway. As he and KR get ready for the company's official launch, they're pulling out all the stops, including high-profile endorsements.
I have seen the technology at work.
Yes, that's former Secretary of State Colin Powell. Is this the answer to our energy problems?
I think that's too big a claim to make. I think it is part of the transformation of the energy system. But I think the Bloom boxes will make a significant contribution.
To make a contribution in KR's mind, Bloom boxes will power not just our richest companies, but remote villages in Africa and all our houses.
In 5 to 10 years, we would like to be in every home.
How much do you think it's going to cost the average person to have one, to buy one?
A unit should cost less than $3,000.
You are an idealist.
You know, it's about seeing the world as what it can be and not what it is.
I see you seeing a Bloom box in the basement of the White House.
Absolutely. I would love that to go on the lawn.
So forget the basement. You want the Bloom box in the rose garden.
Maybe next to that organic vegetable garden. I would be happy with that.
Since our report first aired in February 2010, the company told us they've received over 100 new orders, including ones from PG&E, California's largest power company.